Okay. Well, good morning, good evening, afternoon, and late night, depending on where you are. You have reached the first in our three-part series hosted by ISSIP, exploring AI impacts to global democracy. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I want to ask, if you are not the on-screen speaker, please mute your microphone, because we may have quite a few people coming in during the course of the event, so please mute your microphone. And do please use the chat feature to ask questions, to make comments, to share links or any information you'd like to contribute. And we will be sending out a recording of this event and the slides to everyone who registers, so we have your email. So please do participate in that way. I'm Michele Carroll, Executive Director of ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, and I am proud to introduce the two ISSIP colleagues developing and co-moderating this entire three-part series. Kazuyoshi Shimada with the Japan Science and Technology, JST, and Christine Leitner with the Center for Economics and Public Administration in London. Kazu, who has served as director of JST's Washington, D.C. office for the past 3 years, was absolutely the impetus for ISSIP to host an event on this topic. He'll tell you why in a few minutes, but I just wanted to take a minute to thank Kazu for his diligence and excellent work in the past few months, developing this series and content and plan, even as he transferred back to Japan and into a new role for JST as manager for the Office of Diversity and Inclusiveness. And we also want to welcome Kazu. He's recently just been nominated and heartily approved and appointed as an ISSIP ambassador to JST. So we're looking forward to many future collaborations. Christine Leitner is the ISSIP leader who succeeded Jim Spohr and Lou Freund as chair of the AHFE, HSSE, the Human Side of Service Engineering Conference, to be held in Nice next month. And that is one of the most important ISSIP collaborations annually. She is co-founder and senior advisor of the Center for Economics and Public Administration, CEPA, with a focus on public sector innovation programs. And Christina served as policy advisor for the Austrian Ministry for Digital and Economic Affairs for more than a decade. We're honored to have such top caliber leadership for this series, bringing perspectives from industry, NGO, government, and through a lens from Japan to Europe and the OECD. So in our single hour together, we're going to briefly review the preliminary findings from the survey we fielded on this topic. And then Kazu and Christine will take over to frame our discussion, introduce the panelists, and we're targeting about 20 minutes total for all four of them to share their perspective, leaving a good robust chunk of 20 minutes time for Kazu and Christine to moderate discussion with the panelists and Q&A with all of you. So with that, let's have a look, and then we will have time, a little closing and a call to action at the end we hope you'll stay for. Looking briefly then at the survey, which is still in the field, and there is a link, or will be shortly, a link in the chat for you. If you've not yet, please complete the survey, and we'll be presenting findings at the final event in September. But our first 30 responses in response to the first question, thinking globally, do you think AI presents more opportunity or more threat for democracy? And more than half of our first 30 folks see it as about equal measure of threat and opportunity. Looking at the threats, far and away, bad actor manipulation is considered by the preliminary audience at least as the most threat to democracy. And on the positive side, more of a varied response as to ways in which AI is opportunity for democracy. So that's why you'll see we're planning our August event, August 21st, for event 2, to really do a deeper dive on that, on the positive side, digging into progress and possibility, as well as general discussion of both. When you do the survey, you'll see that the third of the 4 questions is an invitation for you to provide your own position statement on AI impacts to democracy. And we're targeting a white paper that's going to be published in the 4th quarter. So please do that. Seem to need to click twice to move forward. So with that, let me turn it over to Kazu and Christine to launch today's focus, the current state of play. Kazu?
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. First, thank you very much for joining to this session from all over the world. I'm very happy to be with you tonight in Japan. First, I briefly share my motivation. I had a project with Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils, GFCC, entitled Driving Innovation in Times of Crisis. And that was a very insightful project. And we had case studies and discussed what were the crises we are facing. And the crisis is, as a definition, is a recognized period of increased danger requiring action to limit severe and cascading consequences. And I have exchanged views on this with various people. And while discussing this with Jim from ISSIP, I realized that I felt democracy might be in one of the crises we faced. And Jim introduced me to various people, and it became clear to me that there were others who shared the same interest. Since this is a year of important elections around the world, Jim, Michelle, and Christine agreed to make this an ISSIP event series project. So this year, I want to make it a year of thinking about democracy. And thank you very much for joining us. Christine, please give your words about your expectations and your visions on the series.
Well, thank you very much, Kazu. And first of all, thank you, Michelle, for the kind introduction. Thank you for inviting me, Michelle, Kazu, and in particular also Jim, for this very timely discussion in series of discussions in what we call, the super election year, this year, 24. I have this background in digital government policies and particularly from a European perspective, and you can imagine that I share the concerns about the trajectory of democracies, as mentioned, by Kazu. So I was particularly pleased to be invited to this round of discussions and particularly concerned about the declining trust in institutions and the impacts of technologies such as AI, which we have seen in events such as Brexit, and also, the discussions and the fears and attacks during the European elections, which took place just recently in June. So what we all have seen is also that the discourse on AI is very polarized, and it's either exaggerated the threats or overemphasizing the benefits. So in my view, I would like to hear in the course of these cycle of discussions develop a more balanced narrative. And I'm keen to explore with you also what potential responses we could identify to address these policy challenges in the upcoming discussions and the upcoming rounds of panels we have. So thanks again, and I'll hand over back to Kazu for the panel discussion or the introduction. Kazu, yeah, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Yeah. Let's start to have short message from the 4 panelists. I asked them to share their perspectives on the opportunities and risks that AI is presenting to democracy, perhaps influenced by where they are now. And I asked Hiro and Ryuichi to share the Japanese perspective for 5 minutes each, and Ivar to share the European perspective for 7 minutes. and Kevin to share the US perspective for 7 minutes. First, I invite Hiro Hamada, Dr. Hiro Hamada. Hiro is a chief researcher at Araya, and he is a scientist in the field of cognitive neuroscience, computational neuroscience, and phenomenology of consciousness. He received his PhD in systems neuroscience at Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, OIST, in 2019. Hiro, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Let me share my slide. All right, so should be this is fine. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. First of all, giving me opportunity to talk about the situations of the democracy and safety in Japan. So I am actually it's kind of more like application of AI, and I'm a neuroscientist. I used to be, I mean. But the lot of technologies for the AI, current AI, like deep learning, those kind of stuff, actually developed by neuroscience, and I know a little bit about.
Hiro, I might not see your presentation slide on.
Oh, really?
Um,
I saw the.
It says screen
Okay.
sharing, but not seeing it.
Okay, let me.
Let's try again.
Sorry.
yes.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
but I haven't started anything yet. Yeah, but yeah, thank you very much. Right. So yeah, so today's I'm gonna little bit share that something kind of movement rising in Japan. So one thing is like to mention is that like some kind of like open source software cultures, the movement actually evolving in Japan, especially for the local governance against the disaster. That the kind of movement actually popped up in the against like East big biggest earthquake 2011, and that is like happened, and volunteers actually try to build and maintain a platform. This is a Sinai Info, and that is for like like giving up job opportunity that it's harder to get that time due to like this earthquake, and some of the internet infrastructure actually quite damaged. And this culture is actually try to somehow prevent and prepare for the this kind of disaster, including earthquake. And then like several years ago, this Tokyo COVID-19 task force actually website also led by some of the open source software teams. And this is the kind of the supporters emerging supporter to the local governance that like maybe centralized governance hard to support in the disasters. And I somehow we kind of learn lessons from like open source software somehow can support this kind of local governance in Japan's. And somehow we also have a similar, I think, situation right now in AIs. Because client AI systems, for example, like OpenAI, although that has a name open, but most of the codes are not open yet. And so AI operation mostly like without transparency, and or democracy may face danger of fake information. A lot of like fake information like generated by those kind of generative AI, and open software, some kind of new software of this kind of language model is quite important for against this intransparency. That is somehow that's also not just now emerging in Japan, just I think emerging in all over the world. And this open source cultures that's happening in Japan and also the world, I think it's a very good I think movement right now happening. And let me also share some kind of my ideas of how those are somehow related to each other. The recently, like in a small group in actually cryptocurrencies, the blockchain ecosystem, they're trying to actually create a subsystem for the democracy. They're using some kind of decentralized technology to support it. And one group actually mentioned that we have right now in the world three ideology actually like battering each other. That is proposed by Glenn Wiles and Audrey Tan. And what they say is that there are three types of ideologies. One is like a cooperative libertarianism. So all the entrepreneurial bodies try to actually free organizations and try to pursue decentralization, rights, and freedom, this kind of stuff. And another ideology is synthetic technocracy. Could be or like a policy making could be just governed by artificial general intelligence, and like we don't need peoples to actually govern the whole society. That is like kind of some ideology that people are thinking about. And Audrey Tan and Graham Weil proposed a new position that is called a digital democracy. We can use some kind of technology, try to prevent those the different ideology that may actually endanger democracy. So they propose ideas called a plurality, that technology for cooperative diversity and democracy. And interestingly, those ideas came from the Japanese philosophers, Koji Karatani, and his actually influence is quite huge in Japan. And then one of the author, like almost 10 years ago, Ken Suzuki also proposed a new ideas about we need some technology for conservations of plural values. And there's another some groups and concept emerging in Japan. So we need some kind of the governance system against the this depopulation in Japan by technologies. Could be you can use this AI, sorry, like a decentralized technology like blockchains or NFTs, those kind of stuff. So this is the kind of last word. So we are thinking like planning to have events like next month in July 24th and 25th. It's also the theme about how we can support our democracy and our open source cultures through the citizen science or like civic technologies, this kind of stuff. So this is kind of like a global movement that we can also Japan also can contribute to. So this is the kind of my views on how that like Japan's and also like some of the culture in the US and Europe actually working together. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Hiro. Thank you for your inputs. I love your historical context and insights on Japanese culture. Next, we invite Ryuichi Maruyama. Ryuichi is now working as the interim COO of the AI Alignment Network, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to create an ecosystem of researchers and practitioners in the field of AI alignment, AI safety in Japan. With a master's degree in engineering, he spent 80 years working as a scientific book publisher, followed by 3 years at the government think tank for science and technology policy, the Center for Research and Development Strategy at Japan Science and Technology Agency. Thank you for joining, and floor is yours.
Hey, thank you very much for your introduction. I'd like to firstly share some facts about Japan's AI governance policies based on my previous work at the think tank. So very brief overview of Japan's AI governance. Japan has seen discussions on AI rulemaking from as early as 2016. There was some guidelines and we have made some principles. And this year, there is some guidelines for the business. And Japan has built a new AI Safety Institute following UK and US. And regarding generative AI, Japan has inclined towards soft law approach, focusing on self-regulation. And here's a picture of Mr. Sam Altman making his first international visit after ChatGPT's launch to meet with Prime Minister in Japan. But we're now seeing some shift towards aligning with EU and US in relating large-scale AI models. So in my view, one notable gap in Japan's AI governance has been its limited emphasis on democracy. One constitutional scholar, Tatsuhiko Yamamoto, has expressed concern over the absence of such fundamental debates in Japan, resulting in the lack of principles like European Declaration on Digital Rights and Principles, or the US AI Bill of Rights. However, some pioneering efforts are underway at the municipal level. For instance, Tottori Prefecture, with the smallest population in Japan, released in April this year, this digital ethics principles for local governments, with emphasis on how to use generative AI while preserving the value of democracy. So like Hiro mentioned, maybe local governments are having advanced discussions on democracy and AI. And regarding the use of AI in elections, the upcoming Tokyo Metropolis election is quite interesting because some candidates, including the governor in office, is actually using AI avatars for their campaigns. And so far, this has not faced a significant criticism, but it will be interesting to see how the discussions evolve. So another missing piece in Japan's AI discourse, I think, is this talk about future AI. We have mainly focused on addressing current AI risks like copyright infringement, privacy, so on. But prominent AI researchers elsewhere has been highlighting risks posed by future AI, much more capable than today. So to bridge this gap, the AI Alignment Network, nonprofit organization where I belong, was founded last year with the goal to discuss and act on issues related to future AI. So my last word is, so importantly for the current discussion, I think the AI alignment is also relevant to the issue of democracy because it raises the question of whether the future AI will be guided by democratic values or dominated by a few tech companies. So as Mark Kuckelberg, a philosopher, says in his latest book, we need to regulate AI in a democratic way and use AI for strengthening democracy, thus creating this virtuous cycle. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you for your attention.
Christine?
Thank you, Yuji. Thank you very much. I'm taking over now, and thanks for these interesting contributions. We'll have a discussion later, but I'd like to introduce now Ivar Tallo. Ivar Tallo is at the moment Director General of the Gov Consult Foundation, which I think is based in Estonia at the moment. But Ivar is traveling the world and spreading the word and helping countries to establish e-governance and e-government solutions on a global level. Ivar has had very different roles. He has started off basically in Estonia, establishing basically the Estonian digital governance, the e-Estonia model of governance. And later on, he has been helping many countries across the world to establish e-government in their countries. Ivar also has very good knowledge of what's going on, not only in Estonia and what the history is and the recent developments, but he also has a very good insight on what's happening in Europe, but also, as I was saying before, across the globe. And being Estonian and having set up e-governance in Estonia at a time when not many were talking about it, he also has these out-of-the-box ideas he's going to share with us, I think, on the future of AI and democracy. Ivar, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Christine. Let me start by saying that with all the kind words, I have just 5 minutes to address the topic that is quite interesting indeed. And as I understand, you all come mostly from this academic perspective, and I spent first 20 years of my adult life also with connected to academy, but later I went to the politics for a while. And so when talking about AI and democracy, I would actually like to address some of these issues that I felt and heard over this career. But first, the previous speaker before Christine was telling that, well, we need to regulate better the AI, and that is indeed what we do in the European Union. In March this year, we actually passed a AI EU AI Act, and well, it was 3 years in the making. There was a lot of head scratching, but finally we have this regulation in place, and I'm sure it is followed by other regulations at some point, but for now, I think it is enough. But the EU is not only regulating. Fortunately, EU is also trying to be positive, and in trying to be positive, there are different programs to raise the capacity. There is what I find, coming from a very small country in EU, that the EU tries to help those small countries also to build up their capacities in terms of skills, in terms of well, even computing powers and so on. But let's leave the EU. I mean, it is varied that is taking place. Everybody is as excited as elsewhere. And as usual, the EU is crying quietly and saying that, oh, we are again falling behind the United States. But well, be as it may, I think we are doing pretty well, actually. Now, I have this comparison, an uncanny one from 1990s. As Estonia, building up the Estonia, as Christine said, and during that time there was a kind of a double blow, a double whammy to the old order. One was fall of the Iron Curtain, and the other was the application of the new technologies, personal computing and internet. And what it all did, it changed quite radically. And I had this idea that it is going to change governance, not so much democracy, but governance processes as such. And Christine, it was on slide 2. If you move this, I still have the slide 1 there, but never mind. Let me just, Estonia, among other things, I mean, we started to pay taxes online in 2000, so it's 24 years ago. But amongst other kind of this interaction, public services things, what we also did was we put voting online. So we started with internet voting in 2005, using the new technologies, using the fact that we were not really sure if it is kosher or not. We tried it out, we trusted our sort of money with a new way of banking. I mean, we didn't have the checks and so on. We went directly to the internet, and it worked. And it worked also with voting. But well, I'm not sure if the other countries still haven't come that way. But be as it may, let me just sketch what I wanted to say, and it is a positive view on AI and democracy. Namely, I don't think that we need to talk and concentrate so much on on the negative, on the fears that AI is taking over and that we are, as people, as humans, are losing control. I think we still will have the control, but we can make use of the ways how the technology allows us to analyze, to gather the data, being always online, in connection 24/7 and so on. And now with these large language models helping us to really analyze the data in new ways, we don't need the data mediators in this kind of traditional way like the parliaments are. What I'm thinking of that actually, when we think about the innovation, what we can do into the democracy, we can kind of get rid of this mediating process, what is known as parliament. We probably should leave the Senate as sort of a supervisory control organ, but do we need a dirty kind of trading as it is done between the political forces, where personal ambition and policy ideas are kind of boiled into the sausages? Okay, at the end of the day, they generally taste okay, but the making of it isn't. So maybe we can actually clean this process up with, for example, the sentiment analysis. I mean, today's technology already allows us to collect and analyze all kinds of speech, and it doesn't have to be written, it can be oral, it doesn't have to be eloquent as the party leaders usually do, but it can be just more or less a rambling. The AI can pick up the sentiment, what we want to express, and at the end of the day, politics is about do I want it or do I not want it? And therefore, we can really change the overall view how and start to kind of lay the bricks for the democracy again. And in the meantime, when we think about these radical things, what we can do is we can use it in policy. We can use it in public services. For example, now around the world is quite modern, is this kind of mystery shopper approach to evaluate how good the public services are. Well, we can do that all with AI online, and it really helps the governance process. But I think I will stop here at the moment. I just want to, in conclusion, encourage that we can be really much more positive on the contribution of the AI to the democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ivar, for your insights, and we'll come back to some of the points. I understand that one of the jobs you had in the past, like a member of parliament, you won't want to abolish that. We'll come back to that, Ivar. We had a discussion on that already, so looking forward to what all the colleagues here think about it. I have the pleasure now of introducing our last panelist, and I'm very happy, Kevin, that you can join us. We met actually for the first time last year. And I think many of you might know him. Kevin today is a federation leader and president of Content Evolution, and you might know him from his co-hosting of Content Evolution New World, where he regularly organizes discussions and video episodes. Kevin is Director Emeritus, IBM Brand and Values Experience, and the first global brand steward for ThinkPad notebook computers. In his multiple roles, Kevin is author, innovator, federation and community leader, and what I really also like is a passionate skier. Since I come from the mountains, I grew up there, so we share another passion, and many more. So Kevin, without further ado, you have the floor. Looking forward to your comments.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Just to frame up, all right, where I'm coming from today, there are three areas of research I'm looking at. I'm looking at artificial intelligence more in the frame of collective intelligence based on the way that the data training sets and the fundamental knowledge, right, that these systems work from. I'm looking at moving beyond design of experience to design of presence as a fundamental notion of moving experience design off the proscenium stage for a spectacle to being one-to-one interactions. And I'm also looking at artificial intelligence as a source of rapid insights for decision-making, right, in critical mission contexts. So gives you a little bit of frame of some of the things that I'm looking at. I would like to say that the way that I think about artificial intelligence is from a model that I use called return on relationships. That model has first principle relevance. Why is AI relevant to us? The context in which that relevance manifests. And so we're going to be talking about citizens and governance in a moment. And then how does it create mutual benefit? The reason that you choose to interact on an ongoing basis is there seems to be something in it for both of us. To the degree that it feels extractive or is one-sided, we're probably going to stop interacting. So return on relationships is based on relevance, context, mutual benefit. So AI, as it rapidly emerges, is a gift, and it is a peril for citizens and governance, depending on your perspective and intentions. It promises to be a way for citizens to be fully aware of all the services that are relevant to people, families, businesses, and be able to make useful connections for navigating the complexity of government. Indeed, AI has the potential to be a really wonderful way to make federal, state, and local government services easier to use, all right? And right now, the way that a lot of us experience this and the presence that we have with each other and the governments that we pay taxes to interact with is they're not always easy to use, right? So, and a lot of the functionality is hidden from us. How do we make that more accessible? AI can help. For people in government, elected officials, regulators, other folks that are hired, this can be a really great way to make, to draft legislation. It doesn't have to be done by a battalion of people from other staffs or other organizations that get submitted to a legislator. They're going to be able to increasingly draft legislation on their own, at their own desk, right? With a handful of just, hey, let's get this done, all right, in the next hour, right? Because all of the things that you need to do are going to be inside of that process. Great context. It can also, if you've ever seen a piece of legislation, at least in the United States, arrive on a desk, it looks like two Manhattan telephone directories, if you can remember the printed versions of things, right? It can be as many as 1,500, 3,500 pages, all right, of text. When you're trying to vote on something, there is no way that you can understand or have read it before you vote on it. However, if you use artificial intelligence and tell it what you're interested in, what your constituents are interested in, please read this and point out where are the sections that relate to things that we care about, then you're going to be able to make the right kinds of amendments, the right kinds of comments on the floor before you vote on it. And I think that is a tremendous, step function change in the ability for someone who's elected or someone who's been appointed in a regulatory body to make a better decision and set of recommendations. Now, that's all positive. On the other hand, right, AI poses a risk to national security, to democracy, and sometimes in parallel, this disinformation that we're seeing in the hands of economic competitors and adversaries. This is a problem for democracy, and it's sometimes in parallel, it's a problem for capitalism as a system, because the free flow of information allows for us to actually fully understand the free flows of goods, services, ideas, right, that are grounded in reality and necessary for informed customers and indeed for informed citizens. AI frames itself through the lens of what might want to accomplish. A useful system for
Hold on one moment. I need to.
Okay. I just heard interruptions. When you think about this, a useful system for tracking social currency in China, right, can be seen as a threat to individual liberty and privacy in the United States. Conversely, if you believe, as I do, that there are large amounts of human data that you need to train artificial intelligence, and it's the next generation of training data, where is that likely to come from? Well, the largest population on the planet that really doesn't care about privacy is going to have, and I'm talking about China, all right, has a decided advantage with their data training sets versus the rest of us. And we're going to have to live with those assumptions in the embedded data for those models going forward, right? So, what are the implications? How do we provide, competitive environment for the right imprints inside these data training sets for the large language models and the transformers that we want to use? The only thing I can tell you for sure is that AI in citizenship and governance is coming to a country near you. And the time to get interested, involved, and AI literate is today. When you summarize, think about this, right, I would give you my success to significance model, which is you can either look at artificial intelligence as something that is challenging the survival of humanity. You can look at it as something that could provide the platform for success as we kind of divide it, and define it in the commercial world. Or you could look at this as an opportunity, to create significance for humanity in a 360-degree frame. The doomsayers are in the survival camp. The way that a lot of the conversations are being framed that are positive are about survival. I would suggest that what we need to do is lift that conversation up to the next level, look at all of the opportunities and potential threats in a full mutual benefit context, and then make the right decisions about how we use this technology to create benefits for humanity. Thanks very much for having me with you, and I look forward to the discussion when that part of the program begins. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your insights. I'm going to hand over to Kazu again. Kazu?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inputs from panelists. I would like to, Anyway, today we are not discussing how to solve the problem, but instead lay out the problems and opportunities to explore in depth in the next session. Shall we start the expectation of AI for our democracy? I mean, we can lay out the expectation and the risks of AI for the current situation and the future situation. And Kevin also mentioned about the both sides expectations and risks. And also Hiro and Ryuichi mentioned about the kind of context of Japan about the decentralization and democratic expectation for the governance of the society. And it's the same as the Estonian context as well. So you were mutually inspired by the mutual inputs. So could you please add the measure opportunities and risks of our society, both current situation and future situation accepted. Ryuichi, Hiro, do you have any additional inputs inspired by other people?
Okay, if I may,
Yes, please.
yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer Kazu-san's particular question, but I was very interested by Kevin's talk about opportunity to make the documents more accessible to the citizens. The legislation is thick pile of papers, and but at the same time, I thought there's a risk also in that kind of use of LLMs, because if bureaucrats start to use LLMs daily, they can produce a junk paperwork, and also I think those kind of things are kind of beginning to happen in Japan as well. And so I thought that there was some kind of risk, and I was wondering how we could maximize the benefit and minimize the risk.
May I comment on that for a moment?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think that, the way that we currently look at generative AI models for creating new documents and language is we need to be able to fine tune them. You're familiar with, fine tuning as a methodology to make sure that it is expressing itself the way that that particular regulator or legislator sees the world. And we're actually doing those experiments in content evolution right now, that we have digital twins of ourselves, and we can collaborate and we can work with each other and we can publish articles, right, collectively, and we can, get insights, from specific, right, trained agents. But if you're trying to get it to be authentic and not hallucinate, you need to have a body of knowledge that is about how do you write legislation the way that we do it in the United States in a RAG, retrieval augmented generation database, right? That has all that information, and that you're not going out, right, to the general tool, but you're saying, go over here specifically to how does Congress write legislation in the United States? Use those tools, right, to help me do what I need to accomplish. And, if you do it the right way, you can have a little volley in between and say, write it, and then have my critical self read it and say, no, there are some problems, right? And, let's look at that. If this section of my districts, look at this, they're not going to like it. So you need to make some modifications. That's what I see happening is, and it will speed it up. Right. I'm going to make this last observation. If you really know how legislation is created in the United States, it is done by lobbyists for the most part. It's done by people who have an address on K Street in Washington, D.C. And if you want to disintermediate the lobbyists and have authentic legislation actually written by the people who are elected, you need this technology to be able to help them do that on their own, as opposed to being dependent on the third party. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, great input. Thank you, Kevin. There is many discussions on the new bricks for democracy input by Ivar, and also Ryuichi and Hiro mentioned about the new system, and they know about the new discussion about the new currency system, or what can I say, voting system utilizing the new technologies. And is there any comments or comments on this future AI's issues, both from expectations and risk? Hiro?
Yeah, may I? Yes. So yeah, it's very nice to see like other examples, like happening for the voting, and so the current voting system is like a quite singular system, and sometimes people trying to do utilize and see more enhancing plural or the diversity of the community. So one maybe political parties would like to, you know, really support certain kind of project, but if nobody other community cannot support, then might that the policy is not good for that, like a lot of community. So there's a new kind of voting system trying to support, you know, diversity of the community itself as well. And one thing is I kind of hoping and the opportunities for this AI is that we can somehow actually like embody those like a plural voice from the citizen into the AIs, and then we can utilize and you know and always communicate with those kind of AIs. But another point that could be a danger of or risk of AI is that always some kind of, you know, the community, the people is trying to somehow hack those AI and inject and or how to inject a different kind of ideas in it, and that has a huge impact of the human thought. So this is, I think, somehow what people start thinking about risk of AI is like Cambridge Analytica. I think that's happened 2016 or 15. So always like this is kind of list. How can I say? The pros cons are tightly coupled. These cases. So this is the kind of how I see the impact, and also we have to think about this diversity, inclusions, and AI.
Thank you. Yeah, new bricks for democracy is still not realistic to be implemented in Japanese society, but many discussions are ongoing. And Kevin or Ivar, do you have any other, what can I say, examples or
Okay,
thoughts?
yes. Can I say something? I mean, I think there are actually this kind of non-controversial ways to advance this kind of more responsive governance. Let's put it that way. Whether it is then more democratic or not, I mean, that depends on the definition. But clearly, also autocratic rulers are interested in the kind of sentiment of people, and this can be measured and this can be analyzed very easily with these new technologies, and based on that the system can be made more responsive, so to speak. Let me bring you just an example. What I'm trying to now set up a pilot in Kazakhstan. They have this kind of electronic complaints and proposal system, which is covering all country. And, in last 2 years, they have had over 5 million proposals or complaints by the citizens. I mean, it's a country of 28 million people, so it is quite sizable proportion who has taken part, who has made some input. But it is quite a huge kind of challenge to analyze all this. And this AI is really, I hope, going to help us very much in this. And that will make the system more responsive, I'm sure, if we manage to get it to work, but I have all the confidence that we will. So, I mean, there are different ways that we can find, and I'm sure we discover many more to come. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Ivar, thank you. Christian, do you have any questions to Ryuichi?
Yeah, Ryuichi, I think if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned, you know, that there is initiatives, and I think there's one in the UK as well now, to use avatars in election campaigning. So what is your take on that? I mean, the AI Steve in the upcoming, UK elections gets a lot of attention. I have seen that it's 7 million followers, which is almost the population of Austria. And he argues, the founder who is behind, he argues that he can reach out to many more people this way because he can, address them in parallel. So what's your take on that? Is that just an immediate, a toy? Is it an immediate intermediate step, or is that going to change the way we are interacting with, or politicians are going to interact with the citizens? Or are we going into the direction what Ivar has mentioned, that we don't need these intermediaries anymore? So what's your take on that, Ryuichi and Ivar?
Thank you. I didn't know about the AI Steve in UK. I'm very interested in that. But my take is that I was kind of shocked by these AI electorate candidates appearing, and because I thought many problems can pop out by using AIs. For instance, can the candidates take responsibilities what AI avatars are saying? Maybe they're the writing, the speech is written by human, but nobody can be sure if it's generated by AI. So yeah, I expected more people becoming more critical to the use of AI avatars, but I was rather surprised that nobody seems around me to be being surprised by the use of AI. So maybe in Japan it will be acceptable somewhat, but I don't know what will turn out, and I'm very interested in how it will evolve.
So I see some skepticism. What about Ivar? Ivar, your that you don't need these mediators at all in the future.
Yes, Christine. Well, I'm not sure we do need them. I'm sorry if I'm without a picture at the moment, but yes, we might be better off, actually. I mean, what is a mediator? I was a member of parliament, as you mentioned. I felt it was like a position where when you are good, when you make compromises, then people concentrate not on that what everybody wins, but what everybody loses. And you as a compromiser are the one that is guilty. And we see this dynamic playing out in many countries, most prominently in the United States nowadays. I mean, it is kind of, instead of praising for keeping the cup half full, we are complaining that no, it's worse president and worse economy and worse whatever all the time. So if we can get this kind of system to do this compromise instead of us, and we just certifying the compromises, maybe that is going to be a much healthier situation for all the politics. I will finish here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not finished with this discussion, but thank you, Kevin. I think you wanted to
I just wanted to say that in the context of elections, which is kind of the space that we're in at the moment, the most important outcome is you can trust the results of the election, and that the candidates who are squaring off with each other accept the results of the election, right? To the degree that we enter the territory on a regular basis, that the loser says that was not a legitimate outcome and I'm going to fight it, okay, leaves the population in an indecisive space and deprives the person who's coming in that actually, theoretically legitimately won the election without the mandate to govern, all right? So we need to design systems that allow us to reach that level of trust accept the outcomes, because this is a win-lose kind of paradigm that we have right now. There might be others in the future, but this is where we are right now in democratic governance. And so we need to be able to design systems that are going to increase that level of trust in outcomes and make sure that the losers accept those results and say so publicly.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. The time is coming. So thank you for your contributions on the discussions today. We could mention about the present risks and opportunities of the AI to the democracy, and future. We also can mention about the future risks, benefits for the democracy, and we could see the kind of context on that expects the new what can I say, building bricks for democracy towards the future, and we need to tune finely about that. But I will be able to summarize this discussion, bridging today's discussion to the second discussion towards the future. Thank you very much for your help. Kristen, do you have any comments adding this?
Well, no, thank you very much for all the comments, and there was a lot of food for thought, and I've pretty much the initial answer to my question about the new narrative. I think, Kevin, you've given me some hooks that we have to take, the survival attitude to the next level. I'm not quite sure yet if I agree with Ivar, but I'm also quite interested in watching, what is already there in the process at the moment in the elections. We see these avatars and, how they work. It will be interesting to follow these current developments. Lots of ideas, many inputs from your side. As I said before, I'm also very interested in how these policy responses, how they impact, on this. And I'm hoping that we'll find the time to discuss that in our upcoming meetings. But we had very little time, but we had a lot of input. And I thank you very much for all these insights. And I hope we can continue the discussions in August and in September and maybe beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.
Michele.
And everyone.
Thank you very much to our moderators and all of our panelists. Just excellent discussion. And thanks everyone for coming. And this was the first in the series. The next is August 21st, which will be 90 minutes instead of 60, where we'll have a little extra deep dive into the positive possibility, as well as panel discussion on both. Same moderators, hope all of you, and please spread the word. Let's have a bigger group every time. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Here. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivar. Have a great
Bye.
party. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you. Yes, the
Ivar.
party just starts. I managed actually to have even the photo op with my son in between. Sorry.
Go celebrate. Thank you very much.
Just one thing to say is that everything went okay from this side. I hope I made sense when I spoke also. I'm not sure because there were so many people around me, but I tried my best.
No, it
Oh,
is
absolutely. We did not hear them and they heard you. It made great sense. Exciting.
Okay, good. Have a nice weekend.
And you a nice party, and congrats
Yeah.
to your son and to you.
Yes.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you. Oh, Christine, if it is already past the public stuff, I just got today's news. My daughter found a Japanese family. I mean, she's going as a. Remember, I told you that she studies Japanese, and she went into this WIFU student exchange.